Okay, so this is one of the largest module throughout the course because this is actually a application of the previous module. So makikita nyo kanina, in the discussion of the previous of the group, meron silang uh, nasabi about uh, descriptive epidemiology. May nasabi sila about hypothesis, about analytic epidemiology. So, actually, yung last part nila is siya yung module 10 natin on their communication part. So, module 9 actually is very, very interesting. Kung na-open nyo na yung app dun sa exercise na binigay sa inyo, meron na bang naka-open ng application? Yung Solve That Outbreak ng CDC? Let me know kung merong mga problems regarding that. Pero we've played that already dun sa mga previous batch na na-handle ko. Okay naman, it's working. So for this module, simply we will look into the steps in the outbreak investigation. Ito, di ata sinama, but we differentiate cluster, outbreak, and epidemic. This is very basic para sa inyong mga public health, but we still look into this. Then, given the initial information of possible outbreak, paano natin ma-determine if an epidemic exists? And state the purpose of line listing. And then, draw and interpret an epidemic curve. Hi? Wait lang. Let me know kung naririnig ba itong part na to.
Helicopter, steamship, track, helicopter.
Imagine you are scrolling on your phone and you notice a friend's social media post about suffering from some gastrointestinal symptoms. Although it is not too alarming that one of your friends has diarrhea and vomiting, it is certainly too much information. Do they really need to share that online? You shake your head and keep scrolling. Later, you notice 3 more of your friends posting about similar problems, and you take notice. That's more than you would expect in one day, and when you realize you and your now sick friends were all recently together, you might be more concerned. What is going on? Why is this happening? And will you be next? Your friends might be part of a disease outbreak. An outbreak is a higher number of cases than expected in a location within a certain time period. An outbreak often requires further investigation. During an outbreak, a team of many different public health experts work at identifying the source and how the disease is spreading, finding ways of protecting the community from the health threat, and communicating their findings to people and groups who can use the information to better protect themselves and others. Like a team of scientists who use the scientific method to conduct an experiment, a public health team uses a series of steps to investigate an outbreak as quickly and efficiently as possible. These steps often, but not always, follow a specific order. The steps in an outbreak investigation address key details, like what is the problem, what is the cause of the problem, and what can we do about it? Thinking back to your friends who are sick, this outbreak investigation would start with, what is the problem? Preparing for fieldwork involves doing research. During this investigation, Ezra, an epidemiologist, would research possible causes of gastrointestinal symptoms and generate a list of possibilities, including known foodborne infectious agents and how they spread. Along with research, Ezra would collect the required materials and tools, and assemble the appropriate team to conduct the investigation. Ezra must also establish or determine that an outbreak is occurring by comparing current surveillance numbers to what is expected. These surveillance data are collected via reports from hospitals, healthcare providers, and laboratories. At any given time, there will be an expected number of people with gastrointestinal symptoms in an area. But if the disease pattern changes or this number suddenly increases beyond the expected amounts, this may be the first indication of an outbreak. So, Ezra needs to know how many people developed nausea and vomiting this week and compare that with the weekly numbers from previous years. Other factors that might prompt an outbreak investigation include the speed that the disease is spreading, especially if it's being passed from person to person, the severity of symptoms, and the need for immediate prevention strategies to stop the spread of disease. The next step is to verify the diagnosis. Laboratorians like Lily can identify the infectious agent causing the illness and confirm cases with a positive laboratory test. It is important to test as many suspected cases as possible to make sure symptoms are being caused by the same infectious agent. In the case of your sick friends, Lily would conduct laboratory testing on stool samples submitted to her laboratory from each friend. If the samples tested positive for a foodborne infectious agent, like E. coli O157H7, she would verify a diagnosis of food poisoning for each friend. Lily can help confirm that an outbreak is occurring when she sees many similar test results, like if all your friends test positive for the same foodborne infectious agent. Early on, the outbreak investigation team constructs a working case definition. Case definitions can vary based on the purpose of why the cases are being identified. In an outbreak investigation, the case definition is a set of criteria: who, person, where, place, when, time, and what clinical features and laboratory findings to consider when determining if a case of disease should be included as part of the outbreak being investigated. In this outbreak, the case definition is anyone who experienced vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal cramps with a confirmed laboratory diagnosis of E. coli with illness onset since the 15th day of last month in your community. Anyone is the who. The symptoms and confirmed laboratory test is the what. Since the 15th of last month is the when, and your community is the where. Case definitions can vary from outbreak to outbreak and can change as the investigation unfolds. More information helps public health experts refine and improve the criteria as they learn more. Using that case definition, the team can systematically search for more cases and record information about them. The team can contact physicians, laboratories, and sick people to ask for case information. At some point in their investigation, they may also reach out to potentially ill persons through the media or other records. Bhavati, a public health nurse, may contact persons identified as confirmed or suspected cases. Bhavati would ask questions about possible exposures, such as places they have recently visited, foods they have recently eaten, and whether they know anyone else who is sick. Exposures are things that could have caused the infection. She may also interview people who were not sick to compare exposures for later analysis and to help find associations. The team would collect and organize this data into a line list. Line lists help organize information about infected persons, like demographics, case information, and possible exposures. Bella, the team's biostatistician, analyzes the line list data as she performs descriptive epidemiology. This means she is looking for patterns in the data to characterize or classify the outbreak by person, who was affected, place, where the cases occurred, and time, when they occurred. Bella also creates maps and tables to help the team identify patterns and trends of the disease. She also creates an epicurve, a histogram that displays the number of new cases over time. The team can then use this information to determine the extent of the outbreak and decide where to apply control measures. It can also provide clues to what the cause of the outbreak might be. Although the team has been thinking about possible causes from the beginning of the investigation, the next step is to develop hypotheses about the source of the outbreak. What are the usual sources of E. coli O157H7 food poisoning? Are the cases clustered or grouped in one area? Or is only one age group affected? What do the sick people think might have caused their illness? Analyzing the patterns and answering these questions will help the team determine what is the cause of the outbreak. These hypotheses can be evaluated in different ways. One way is to use analytic epidemiology to evaluate hypotheses epidemiologically, or quantify the associations among different exposures and disease. For example, many people who were sick went to the same school and ate at a new burrito restaurant in the last week. Using statistical analysis and information from a comparison group of people who did not get sick, Bella can measure the association between an exposure, such as going to school or visiting the burrito restaurant, and disease, such as having E. coli food poisoning. These calculations can tell us that there is not a strong association between going to the school and getting sick with the disease. So the team may go back and test other hypotheses, like if people were more likely to get sick with E. coli food poisoning if they ate at the burrito restaurant. Of course, if Lilly can find the same strain of E. coli in a food at the restaurant, then the lab and epi findings support one another. This reconciliation of the epidemiology with laboratory and environmental findings would make support for this hypothesis even stronger. If people were not more likely to get sick after eating at the burrito restaurant, then the team will reconsider and refine hypotheses and conduct additional studies as necessary. Although listed as one of the later steps in an outbreak investigation, public health experts implement and evaluate control and prevention measures as needed throughout the course of the investigation. After confirming that people were more likely to get sick with E. coli food poisoning after eating at the burrito restaurant, the team, including Ivy, an infection prevention specialist, contacted the restaurant and made a field visit to conduct an inspection to identify potential problems with food storage and handling, collect environmental and food samples for testing, and make recommendations. The team then looked at the line list to see what the people ate at the burrito restaurant to look for clues. Using statistics, Bella identified the likely source of the outbreak to be the lettuce. Lilly confirmed this in the lab using the samples collected during the inspection of the restaurant. The team contacted the restaurant to let them know that the likely cause was the lettuce. Ivy had noticed some problems with storage and handling of lettuce and other food items during their initial visit, and had made a series of recommendations concerning those practices. The restaurant had been closed as soon as it was found to be linked to this outbreak. Before it could reopen, Ivy made a follow-up visit to ensure that their recommendations were being followed, that changes in storage and handling were in place, and that staff would receive periodic teaching in safe food handling. Prevention strategies can be very different depending on the outbreak. The food poisoning scenario shows a single point of infection, the lettuce at the burrito restaurant. But there are other types of outbreaks. If an outbreak involves person-to-person transmission, we would need to take into consideration how people interact with each other. For example, with COVID-19, public health outbreak teams conducted contact tracing, which includes identifying, monitoring, and supporting close contacts who have been exposed to and possibly infected with the virus by interacting with someone who is a confirmed case of the disease. One way COVID-19 is spread is through respiratory droplets. So prevention measures like wearing masks, socially distancing, and increasing ventilation were encouraged and implemented in many areas. Brandon, a behavioral scientist on the team, could provide valuable insights about human interactions while someone is ill, and how public health messages could encourage people to take the actions recommended by public health experts. To ensure prevention measures are working, the outbreak investigation team will want to initiate and maintain surveillance systems to continue collecting data to see if the number of cases is decreasing and if the spread of disease is being controlled. To keep the public informed, Harper, a health communication specialist, communicates findings to the public and encourages anyone experiencing symptoms to contact the health department or a healthcare provider. They can do this in a variety of ways, like a spot on the local news as a public service announcement, through social media posts, or even on the radio. As a quick recap, we can answer the question, how is an outbreak investigated? Outbreak investigation requires communication and collaboration of people with specialized skills to investigate cases, determine the cause, stop the spread of disease, and keep the public safe. An outbreak investigation is a multi-step process focusing on three key areas. What is the problem is addressed by using a case definition to collect data on cases, who, what, where, and when. What is the cause is addressed by developing and evaluating hypotheses on how or why the outbreak might be happening. Finally, what can we do about it is addressed by implementing control and prevention strategies to control the current problem and prevent the spread of the disease. Continued monitoring and surveillance are needed to confirm that prevention measures are working and disease spread is being controlled.
Okay, that is from CDC rin. So let me start with this common scenario, no? Sinong nag-birthday nung last time? Last week? Wala. This is, I think, one example also given by the group kanina. So for example, in one event, may birthday ni Victor. May 30 siya na mga attendees. So after 3 days, after nung birthday niya, may 12 na taong nagkasakit, nagkalagnat. May 8 taong nawalan ng pang-amoy. 5 na tao doon nag-positive sa COVID. So normal lang ba ito o may outbreak na? So this is exactly what we do sa epidemiology. As epidemiologists, our job is to answer, may outbreak ba talaga? Ano yung cause? Saan nanggaling? Paano natin pipigilan? That process is what we call now the outbreak investigation. So we start first with this preliminaries ng ating outbreak investigation where we describe what an outbreak is, determine when tayo mag-investigate, and develop investigation objective. This is very similar to what the group presented. So I think meron na silang copy before or dun sa module na meron tayo nitong module na to. So first is an outbreak. So outbreak as is, sabi kanina, more than the expected. So for example, sa barangay nyo, normally you have 2 to 4 diarrhea cases per week or 1 to 2 dengue cases per week. So these are, itong nakalagay dito, usual cases. Itong nasa baba natin, that's usual. So meaning, these fluctuations are normal disease patterns. Outbreak siya when suddenly meron tayo nitong peak o large spike where more cases are seen than expected. So this pattern na nakikita natin is what we call an outbreak already. For example, dun sa kanina natin, sa birthday ni Victor. So there's an outbreak kapag normally naman pumunta ka sa isang birthday party, wala namang nagkakaroon ng mga ganong sakit after it. After that, question, kapag nagkaroon tayo ng monkeypox case dito sa Tuguegarao City, is it an outbreak? Isang monkeypox. Can you give heart emoji kapag meron? Kapag outbreak siya, tsaka thumbs up icon kapag hindi siya outbreak. Can I see? Is it an outbreak or not an outbreak? Wala akong nakikita. Outbreak ba o hindi outbreak kapag meron tayong isang case ng monkeypox sa Tuguegarao City? Pwede din sa chat box. Open natin chat box. Yan. Heart. Talagang hindi yung heart, sabi ni Rosemary. How about the rest? Outbreak, not an outbreak. Isang monkeypox case sa Tuguegarao. Wala. The rest? Anong masasabi ng iba? Ano bang, pag sinabi nating not an outbreak po, sabi ni Gian? Magkaiba sila ng sagot. Si Rosemary siya si Gian. Outbreak po, sabi ni Aaron tsaka ni Jay. Breakout na lang si Victor. Okay, what is our definition of an outbreak? Ang definition natin kapag occurrence of more cases. Anak, waiting. Sorry. Hinihila ako. Meron ate. Later. Later, baby. Breakdown pala, ma'am. Sabi ni Gian. O sabi natin, ang definition ng outbreak, if there are more cases than expected. So ano ba yung usual number of cases natin ng monkeypox sa Tuguegarao?
Zero
Wala.
po.
0 po, sabi ni Victor. So, masasagot niyo na kung outbreak siya o hindi siya outbreak. Okay? Pag more than the usual or expected, that's already an outbreak. So, one thing more, I think the next slides, papakita sa inyo, kapag bago siya na sakit, kapag siya ay mabilis ang spread niya, especially, we tag it as an outbreak. Pero based sa definition natin dito, more than the expected, ang answer natin doon, if we have one case of monkeypox sa Tuguegarao, that is an outbreak. Okay? Ayan. This shows lang na meron tayong dalawang threshold for the policymakers, no, natin. Meron tayong alert threshold at meron tayong action threshold. So, tinitingnan tong mga threshold na to para alam nila kung anong gagawin nila. When we say alert threshold, this is the level where the public health officials start to pay attention and investigate. So, kapag wala pa siya dito sa line na to, alert na threshold, wala pang silang gagawin. Pag meron na, andyan na sa line na yan, that means that cases are already increasing beyond the normal trend and we should start monitoring closely. Yung red line, this is the situation wherein it is serious enough that immediate public health intervention is needed. So ito yung kailangan na natin ng outbreak investigation, mga laboratory confirmation, mga health advisories, yan, kailangan ng gawin yan. For example, nung COVID natin. So, kapag, not COVID really, dito. Kapag naabot na yung alert threshold, that's the time na yung ating DOH and ating mga LGUs starts already to monitor what is happening. And action threshold, this is the time already that they give the advisories. Kanina dun sa pinakita ni JC, the last part, the communication part, wherein to avoid yung mga chismis, mga rumors. For example, parang may bagong sakit, parang COVID ito. Okay, para maiwasan yun, magbibigay na sila agad ng mga health advisories. Ayan, this is just an example showing ito sa case ng Salmonella paratyphi and infections wherein itong part na ito already reached yung threshold and that's the time na magkakaroon na tayo ng action na gagawin. Ayan, itong terms na to, siningit ko lang tong slide na to. What's the difference between a cluster, an outbreak, an epidemic, at saka pandemic? Dahil mga public health students kayo, basic dapat sa inyo to. So, unang lagay sa chat box natin, the difference of the four. Nakain na daw. No, waiting tayo. Difference ng cluster, outbreak, epidemic, tsaka pandemic. Anyone? Anong difference natin? Waiting. Magtatawag tayo pag walang magre-recite. Bilisan nyo. Difference lang nung very quick lang. Yung pag tinanong kayo, anong ibig sabihin nito? Wala, magtatawag tayo. Ayan, Aubrey?
Ma'am, kapag cluster po is small group or cases in one place.
Yes.
Kapag outbreak po, sinabi po kanina, is increase of cases in one community. Kapag area po, kapag epidemic naman po, yung spread niya po is within a region. Kapag pandemic naman po, buong mundo. This is spreading worldwide katulad po nung COVID-19.
Okay, that's it. Yun lang yun. Perfect na yun. Yun na mismo yun. When we look at, ito, nagdi-differ lang sila dun sa kanilang laki. Okay? Si cluster is parang isang classroom lang, isang bahay lang, nagkaroon sila ng maraming cases. Outbreak, isang barangay na yon or isang buong school na yung affected. Epidemic, pag region-wide, sabi nga ni Aubrey, or province na ito. Pandemic, alam na alam niyan, buong mundo affected. So that's the difference between the four. So ito ay pinakita din kanina ng group kanina, should you investigate? Kailangan ba nating mag-investigate? And this is where papasok yung sinabi ko kaninang, depende kung ito ay yan, as unfamiliar or new yung disease, we investigate. Kapag yung illness na to, pag nahawaan ka, mamamatay ka agad. Of course, we investigate. Potential for spread. Okay? Kapag lumapit ka lang dito sa nagkaroon, is magkakaroon ka na rin. Okay? Of course, you investigate. Wala pang vaccination for this illness. Okay? Walang control measure for this illness. Of course, you investigate. Aside from the number one natin kanina na definition of your outbreak, if the number of cases ay reaching the threshold, okay, or more than the threshold. Another one that we don't usually take into account, no, itong health office factors. Usually, ang tinitingnan lang natin is the disease factors. Kailangan talagang mag-investigate. But in reality, or kung at talagang nangyayari, we also have your health office factors. Ano nga ba itong health office factors? These are practical considerations related to public health operations. Meron ba kayong mga available resources to investigate? Kunwari, si Aubrey, parang ang daming cases ng dengue ngayon. Okay? Meron ba kayong available resources sa health office ninyo? Meron ba kayong staff na pwedeng mag-investigate? May funding ba ito? Kasi if resources are limited, the health offices must prioritize which outbreaks to investigate. Hindi lahat ng outbreaks ini-investigate nila. Public relations, ito. This, ba't ba nag-move siya? Okay. This public relations ay ating nag-i-influence ng ating decision. For example, if a disease outbreak occurs in a school, a hospital, or a major city, the authorities may investigate quickly to reassure the public and provide accurate information. So, depende din kung sino mga nakaupo. That's why we have these political considerations. Sometimes, disease events have political implications. Example, may outbreak during election, may outbreak affecting tourism, diseases affecting the large industries. So government officials may push for rapid investigation to manage the situation and to maintain ang public trust. Ayan, pinakita to kanina ng group. When do we investigate and when do we control? So kanina dito, sa previous slide natin, should you investigate? Ito is when do we investigate and when do you control naman. So nasabi kanina, kapag known ang source of or mode of transmission at known ang causative agent, hindi mo na kailangan mag-investigate. Alam mo na kung saan. Alam mo na kung sino ang nagkakos nito. So, you prioritize control. But if you know the source of mode of transmission, but you do not know the causative agent, of course, you do both investigation and control. Bakit both? You investigate para alam mo kung sino yung causative agent. You control because alam mo yung source or mode of transmission. For example, sa food poisoning. alam mo na galing sa food na ng caterer. Okay? So, yung food dapat ng mga ginawa ng caterer na yon, itapon na. That's control. Okay? Investigation is, you find out which of those foods ang merong causative agent at kung ano yung causative agent na meron yun. Salmonella ba yun? E. coli ba siya? Pseudomonas ba ang meron doon? Next is this quadrant. Unknown ang mode of transmission, known ang causative agent. So this, ang priority mo dito is investigation. Because although you know the causative agent, hindi mo naman alam kung saan nanggagaling. Hindi mo alam kung paano siya natatransmit. And lastly, the fourth quadrant natin is unknown both. Okay? Hindi mo alam ang source, hindi mo rin alam ang causative agent. So that is mainly investigation kasi hindi mo naman alam kung ano yung iko-control mo. So this is a quick checkpoint lang natin, no? 1, 2, 3, 4. We start with number 1. Tell me kung anong i-prioritize dito. Kung control ba or investigation. Number 1, sa chat box na lang so that I can note sa ating classroom record book. Number 1, cholera cases among persons using a well previously contaminated by an adjacent latrine. What do you prioritize here? Investigation or control? Control, sabi ni, sino yung nauna natin? Sabi ni Jay. Tingnan natin. Okay, number 1 is control. Bakit? Alam mo yung source. Galing siya sa well. Okay? Galing siya sa well. So that, and alam mo na cholera yon. Okay? So known, that is, ang priority mo is control. Number 2. Oh, ay, ang bilis. Number 2, investigation daw. Agad. Si Jay na naman. Ang bilis internet ni Jay. Okay, unknown disease. Unknown pa ang source. Ate, ang okay, unknown daw yung disease with unknown source. Like nodding syndrome or acute flaccid myelitis. Okay, that is, ang priority natin ay investigation. Number 3. Ano yon? Si Aubrey. Sabi niya control. Number 3. Nausea, vomiting associated with food served at a restaurant. Tingnan natin. Si Rose, si Aubrey ang unang sumagot. Natin. Oops. This is both. Known ang both. Dapat walang sumagot ng both. Sumagot si Dolena pero hindi ko alam kung para sa ano yun. Dolena, para saan? Ikaw lang sumagot ng both? Para ba sa number 3 yon? Ha? Control din sa'yo? Sige. Sa number 3 natin, nausea, vomiting associated with food served at the restaurant. So, this one is known ang ating source. It's nasa restaurant, pero hindi unknown siya. So, ang sagot dapat dito ay both. Both, mga anak. Both investigation and control. Walang sumagot ng tama. Okay? So, di ba unknown? Tapos, food served at the restaurant. Okay, number 4. Number 4, si Dolena ang nauna. Investigation. Bakit? Okay, bakit investigation itong last natin? Sabi niya dito, without a known source. So, unknown, anthrax cases without a known source. So, unknown, pero known siya na anthrax. Okay, that is your investigation. Ito, investigation. Okay? Sige. So, this was, reported din kanina, objectives of an investigation. So, objectives are, of course, laging steering wheel of a study. So, parang a study itong ating outbreak investigation. These are clear statements describing what the investigators intend to accomplish. So, here, we try to answer first or identify the agent, the source, and the mode of transmission. That is the looking to also sa ating characterization ng extent ng outbreak, meaning to understand how big the outbreak is. Ibig sabihin, we ask, how many people are affected? Where are the cases located? And when did the cases occur? We also have objectives on identifying exposures or risk factors. Ang tanong natin dito, did the patients attend the same event or did they eat the same food? For example, dun sa birthday party ni Victor, pare-pareho ba silang kumain ng pansit doon? And lastly, your development and implementation of control and prevention measures. That is the last part lagi. That's the ultimate goal and the most important part of an outbreak investigation is to stop the disease from spreading. Yan. So, yan yung summary na part ng ating preliminaries. But we go direct to your outbreak investigation. Sa outbreak investigation, we have Part A and Part B. Part A, itong descriptive epidemiology. Part B is your analytic epidemiology. So in this part, we will look into who should be the members of an outbreak investigation team, confirmation of existence of an outbreak, construction of a case definition, finding cases systematically, development of analysis plan, and the last part of this descriptive epidemiology is to summarize by time, place, and person. So, meron to sa module ninyo. 1 to 6, descriptive. Sabi kanina dun sa video ng CDC, this is looking into what is the problem. Describing pa lang tayo. Ano yung problema? And then, step 7 to 10 is analytic. This is looking into what causes the problem. And then the last part is the response. Steps 11 to 13, what can we do about that problem? So, step 1, 2, and 3 can be done simultaneously or in any order. Hindi kailangang mauna itong preparation of fieldwork. Pwedeng i-confirm mo muna yung existence of outbreak or pwedeng nauna yung verification of a diagnosis. So again, steps 1, 2, 3 ay pwedeng magkabali-balik. Okay? So we start with ito, yung preparation for fieldwork. If you've watched yung ating, anong movie yon? Ano yung movie ng parang COVID? Limutan ko na yung title. Basta yon. This is, you form first a team, multidisciplinary. Nakita nyo sa report kanina and sa video. So, meaning different people from different specialties work together. So, itong diagram natin is showing the typical members. Kanina, dun sa report, pinakita niya kung what each of these team members do. So, ang pinaka-leader natin dito is the epidemiologist. So, siya yung magde-design ng investigation, siya yung mag-a-analyze ng data, siya yung mag-identify ng risk factors at nag-guide ng control measures. Of course, hindi lang siya mag-isa na gumagawa ng studies. Kailangan niya ng laboratory results, kailangan niya ng diagnosis, kailangan niya ng results ng survey, anong sabi ng mga tao. That's why it's a teamwork. Hindi siya mag-isang tao lang na gumagawa. Next is learning about the disease. So you during the before you really enter the field, no, you review first existing knowledge about the disease. Ano yung narinig mo na symptoms nitong sakit na to? Paano siya natatransmit? Ano yung meron ba tayong mga treatment options? For example, if you are investigating cholera, the team should know before even going to the field that cholera is transmitted through contaminated water. At ang symptoms niya, diarrhea, dehydration. And madali siyang matransmit sa mga poor ang sanitation conditions. Because this knowledge, learning about the disease, this knowledge na to will help investigators recognize cases quickly. Next is making necessary administrative, personnel, and logistical arrangement. If you've watched that movie, ang kikita nyo doon, they work together with different offices. So, kailangan may practical planning na nangyayari. This includes preparation ng transport, mga PPE, sino yung mga contact mo dun sa pupuntahan mong field. That's why the last part here, coordination is important. Because they must work, hindi sila basta-basta. For example, pupunta si Jay sa Solana. Nag-i-interview na siya ng mga tao. Just like when you will be doing your thesis later on, you need to contact first local authorities. Magpapaalam muna kayo sa LGU or magsasabi kayo kay DOH. Magsasabi kayo sa mga hospital heads and clinics, sa mga barangay health workers na meron kayong gagawing ganito. Because this will also help with local coordination. You can access yung mga patients mo agad-agad, yung mga respondents mo. Matuturo nila agad sa inyo. There will be community cooperation. Ayun, nagkasakit siya ng ganito. So, that will give you faster data collection. Next is the confirmation of existence of an outbreak. So, nasabi na natin kanina, kailan siya outbreak? Ganito yung slide kanina nung reporter natin. So, after the preparation of the investigation team, the next step is to confirm kung may outbreak nga ba talaga. Hindi kasi lahat ng pagdami ng cases ay outbreak agad. Minsan, random lang yung increase. Talagang at that time, pag March, April, tumataas ang cases of flu, parang ganyan. Or, gumanda lang pala yung reporting. May bagong app ngayon how to report na ganito ang problem. Okay? So, the epidemiologists must verify first kung talagang may outbreak tayo. Now, we go to verification of diagnosis. So, you verify after confirming na meron talagang outbreak na nag-exist, the next step is verify the diagnosis. This means siguraduhin natin kung ano talaga ang sakit. Because sometimes, what looks like one disease might actually be something else. For example, during COVID pandemic, many people with cough, fever, at saka sore throat, immediately inassume na natin na may COVID sila. But sometimes, yung illness na yun could actually be influenza pala yun, dengue pala yun, pneumonia pala siya, or allergy pala siya. So, the investigators must confirm the true diagnosis. Next is constructing an outbreak case definition. Maganda yung pag-report ng group nito kanina. How to make a case definition. For example, sa COVID-19, ano ang outbreak case definition natin na pwede dito? Any student with class A from class A with fever or cough between March 1 to 7. When you make a case definition, it's simply a set of criteria to determine kung kasama ba siya na i-click mo na may sakit. considered ba siya na case in an outbreak? So parang ito yung rules kung sino ang bibilangin na case sa outbreak. And this is very important because in an outbreak investigation, we need consistent criteria so that all investigators classify cases the same way. Yung pala yung investigator mo sa kabila kapag merong fever, ang fever sa kanya is 39 above. Yung sa kabila, pag 37.9, fever na sa kanya. So, magkaiba sila ng case definition. So, some investigators may count too many cases. So, many cases for the investigator na mas mababa ang kanyang case definition of my fever, yung 37.9. Others may count too few cases, yung investigator na ang fever sa kanya yung 39 degrees. So, this will create confusion in data analysis. So, yung paggawa natin ng case definition is so that consistent yung data natin, accurate, and comparable. So, hindi lang siya true to this community. Dapat pareho sila ng language or definition na ginagamit. Ayan. Tingnan natin dito. Ayan. So, ito yung common components ng ating case definition. Case definition by person, by place, by time, clinical features, and laboratory criteria. So, by person, pwede niyang sabihin, children under 5 years, mga healthcare workers, students sa school. So, this will actually help narrow the population. For place naman, where did the cases occur? Sa Barangay Anafunan East ba? Sa Cagayan National High School ba? Sa CVMC ba? So, it will help identify location of exposure. Sa time naman, when did the illness occur? So, between nung Holy Week ba? So, it will define the outbreak period. Clinical features, this includes yung ating mga signs and symptoms, laboratory results. May fever, may cough, positive yung PCR test. So, that's, these are examples, hindi ko na ipapakita. Hindi ko na babasahin. But when you construct, ayan, you have a clinical criteria and epidemiologic criteria. So, you do not include kapag suspected lang ang exposure natin. Ayan. So, we have this triangle dito showing kung ano yung suspected, probable, and confirmed case definition. Suspect siya lang. Okay? Pareho lang sila ng symptoms. Makikita mo dun, symptoms lang. Probable is compatible yung symptoms plus epidemiologically linked. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Epidemiologically linked. Meron na siyang what, when, where. May symptoms siya, tapos nandun siya during the birthday party. Okay? And then confirm, sabi nga kanina ni Jasmine, laboratory confirm. So, meron ka nang makikita. That is the last one. So, nakikita nyo itong triangle to. Paliit ng paliit, ibig sabihin, pakonti ng pakonti, ayan. Hanggang makuha mo na confirmed case talaga siya. Ayan. So, suspected case, ito yung sinabi ko sa yung epi, may epidemiological linkage na, person, place, and then meron siyang clinical symptoms. Ayan, epi pa rin yung time natin. And then, pag confirm, ayan, meron na tayong ginawang laboratory work. Yan, wag na natin yan. Next, ito, find cases systematically and record information. So, very important na nag-define ka muna before you find cases systematically and record information. Ito na yung gagawin nyo pag data gathering na. Okay? So, saan tayo maghahanap? Okay? Best way is you identify mga health facilities, laboratories, at saka community health workers. So, this is very important because if investigators do not find all cases, the outbreak investigation will be incomplete. Siyempre, yung data na yon ang gagamitin mo for analysis. So kung mali yung data or kulang yung data, it will lead to wrong conclusions about transmission or failure to identify the source. That's why epidemiologists must actively search for cases. Actively. So hindi yung pupunta sa inyo yung mga tao, parang passive sentinels natin, para magsabi na may sakit sila. Ikaw dapat yung naghahanap sa kanila. So first is, yan nga, to contact, because this is where the patients seek care. So pag may sakit sila, pumupunta agad sila sa mga health facilities natin. Nagpapalab sila, which is important for diagnostic data, and ating community health workers, because most cases natin, ayaw na nilang pumunta sa hospitals or ayaw magpa-check. So, mas kilala pa nga nitong mga community health workers kung sino yung mga nagkasakit kasi it never reached the hospital. You can also talk to other districts, patients, and media. Because sa other districts, sometimes cases occur outside the original investigation area. Patients may have friends also who became sick. So, tuturo nila, parang dun sa movie, tuturo niya kung ito nagkasakit din yung ka-office mate ko. Ito, contact tracing. And media sometimes, especially in large outbreaks, yung mga media announcements natin may help identify cases. Ayan. Ito yung sabi ko sa'yo, dapat you do active case finding. Ayan. So, after you found itong ating mga to, you do already the line list. So, kanina mas maganda yung line listing nung group, no? So, once the cases are identified, you organize the information. Actually, itong part na tong ng organization, mabilis na ito. Ang pinakamahirap talaga itong paghanap ng cases natin. Itong part na to, mabilis na lang talaga. Kapag maganda yung inyong hanap ng ating mga respondents. So, itong line list natin actually becomes the core data set of the outbreak investigation. Because from this line list, you can build already your epi curve. And then you can analyze mga transmission patterns. You can identify high-risk groups. You can trace contacts. But without a line list, mahirap lahat gawin yun. It will be very difficult to analyze. Makikita nyo to dun sa Oswego exercise na meron kayo. Mahaba yung line list nila. Pero imagine nyo kung paano nila kinolect yung data for that line list. Sobrang hirap. And the last part of this first part of outbreak investigation is to perform descriptive epidemiology. So, alam na alam nyo na yan kasi nasa isang module natin yan. Anong ginagawa for descriptive epidemiology? We just describe, and when we describe by what, when, where, and who. Okay? We cannot do analytic epidemiology without knowing itong descriptive epidemiology. So, what natin is to describe yung sakit, may fever, may vomiting, when the cases occurred. So, this is very helpful sa ating epi curve, where, saan to naganap, and then, who, sino yung mga nagkakasakit. Yan. These are just examples of your findings or tables for the descriptive epidemiology. Yan. Ito ay showing the importance of the epi curve. I think hindi to na touch kanina ng other group. So yung epi curve natin from your line list can give us show us the magnitude of outbreak. So when we compare two districts, makikita natin na mas malaki yung mas mataas yung outbreak sa District A. It will show you also na kailan tumaas. It will give you also a hint yung time course of the outbreak. Kailan nag-start, kailan natapos. So, dito pwede nyo ma-compute yung incubation. You will do that later dun sa inyong Oswego exercise. And, yan. Masasabi nyo may masasabi kayo about the source of the disease. So, how does the disease spread? Point source ba siya? Meaning, all cases are exposed at one time lang. For example, dun sa birthday lang ni Victor. Kasi meron lang isang sharp rise or single peak lang na nakikita natin. Very short lang yung outbreak. Or continuing ba yung common source natin? Meaning, the exposure occurs over several days. Parang yung ating kay Jon Snow. Contaminated ang water supply. So, makikita nyo na parang plateau yung ating graph. Meron pa rin cases, hindi siya tumataas, hindi siya bumababa. Tuloy-tuloy siya na ganun karami ang nagkakaroon ng sakit. Or, intermittent ba ang source? Meaning, the exposure occurs, ba't ba ang gulo-gulo nito? Occurs continuously. Ano siya? Ang tawag doon? Occasionally. Periodic yung contamination. So, hindi siya one time, big time, hindi din siya tuloy-tuloy. Meron noon, meron na naman after 1 week, meron na naman after another week. Or propagated ba ang spread? Kapag propagated ang spread like this one, the curve shows several waves of cases, tumataas, bumababa. This shows us that the disease spreads person to person. Infectious yung disease. And each wave represents a new transmission generations. Your epicurve also can show us outliers. Very important ito. Marirealize nyo ito kapag ginawa nyo yung Oswego exercise natin. Because sometimes, the epidemic curve that shows outliers like this, ito ay clue. Hindi ito pagkakamali. Okay? Bakit may mga naunang nagkaroon ng sakit? This, for example, sa Oswego, no? Bakit sila unang nagkaroon ng food poisoning? Yung peak ng marami is between 13 to 21. Yung pala, tumikim na siya habang niluluto pa lang or pinaprepare pa lang. Hindi pa sinerve talaga nung birthday party. Or, merong mga late cases. Late naman sila na nagkaroon ng food poisoning. Yung pala, nag-Sharon sila. Nag-uwi sila ng pagkain galing dun sa birthday party ni Victor. At kinain na lang nila after 2 days. Pinainit nila. Okay? So, these outliers may give important clues. Ano pa bang importance ng ating epicurve? Yan. We can estimate the incubation and exposure period. That is, when the exposure occurred, ano yung incubation period natin, how long? How long? At kailan siya natatapos? Dun sa inyong Oswego exercise, dito you can search din kung for example, it lasted for 5 days. Sino bang bacteria ang may incubation period ng 5 days? Dito sa graph natin showing median incubation niya 4 days. Sinong bacteria or ang may incubation range ng 2 to 10 days? Yun ang clues na binibigay ng ating epicurve. So, these are the values of epicurve, yung kung gaano kalala yung ating outbreak, time course, source of spread, outliers, and the estimation of incubation and exposure period. So, that is sa time, pagdating sa ating descriptive epidemiology. Sa place naman, so pinakita to kanina for COVID-19. Pero yung favorite ko dito sa place natin is yung spot map natin ni Jon Snow. So, sa place natin, makikita natin dito, by place, village sa isang area, we show the attack rate. Makikita nyo, ang attack rate ni village E ay 86%. So, siya yung may although hindi naman ganun kalaki yung kanyang number of cases compared to the rest. Yeah. But, kapag kinumpare mo sa population of that place, siya yung may pinakamataas na attack rate. Ano bang ibig sabihin nito pag may pinakamataas siyang attack rate by place? Ibig sabihin, pwedeng environmental factors or sources niya of contamination or infection malapit dun sa area nila. Yan. Like this one. So, alam natin na ito, kung saan may pinakamaraming cases, andun pala yung ating source of infection. Yan. You can also say sa chloroplast. And person, this was emphasized nung nasa descriptive epidemiology tayo, that demographic characteristics of cases like your age, sex, and occupation identify kung sino yung mga vulnerable populations natin. And these are, pwede nating gamitin sa analytic studies natin, associate it with the disease transmission, so magiging risk factor siya. So this is looking at commonalities among cases to infer potential modes of transmission. Ayan. So, yan lang yung sa ating first part. Next part natin is outbreak investigation, both for analytic epidemiology and response. So, ito lang yun. Yung ating 7 to 10 is the outbreak investigation, and ating 11 to 13 is the response. So, we start with the 7 to 10 is the analytic part, and 11 to 13 is the response. So, 7 to 10, we start with hypothesis. So, after the investigators complete descriptive epidemiology, we give an educated guess about ano kaya yung source of the outbreak, ano kaya yung cause of the disease, ano kaya yung mode of transmission. So, yun ang unang gagawin. So, alam na natin yan, hypothesis is an educated guess natin. So, we can look into the association between exposure and outcome. Yan. So, these are examples of exposure and outcome na pwede nating i-check. So, checkpoint lang. Baka gutom na ang lahat. Parang nagugutom na rin ako. Ma'am. 12:18. Okay? Sa chat box na lang, tell me if which of this, magre-raise ng hand ha, kasi dalaway naka-underline. So, sabihin nyo sa akin kung saan sa sentence na yan or sa phrase na yan, ang exposure, saan ang outcome. Number 1. Or you can type na lang sa chat box din. HIV or AIDS and injectable drug use. Which one is the exposure? Which one is the outcome? Yes, Galena.
Ma'am, HIV/AIDS is the outcome and injectable drug use is the exposure po.
Okay, correct. Okay, HIV/AIDS ang ating outcome. Injectable drug use is the exposure. Next, Rosemary.
Exposure po, ma'am. Excess po.
Anak, sorry, pakiulit. I didn't hear you. Rosemary?
Yung ano po, outcome, obesity po, tapos exposure is excess calorie consumption.
Okay, correct. So, outcome is obesity, excess calorie consumption is the exposure. Next, Ashanti.
Mami, yung heart disease po yung outcome, then obesity po yung exposure.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Heart disease is the outcome, obesity is the exposure. Wait lang. Mahina kalaban. Aubrey, next.
Ma'am, yung measles vaccine po exposure tapos yung measles disease po outcome.
Yes. Okay. Dito naman ay measles vaccine is exposure, measles disease is the outcome. And lastly, JC,
Lung damage po is the outcome and the smoke inhalation po is yung exposure po.
okay, perfect. Perfect yun na ang exposure and outcome. So, pinapakita natin yan, if you remember, yung mga computations nyo, lahat ng analytic studies nyo sa analytical epidemiology ay linking exposure and outcome. So, dapat malinaw sa una pa lang kung sino ang tinitingnan yung exposure at sino yung outcome. Ayan. So, to understand the spread of the disease, epidemiologists use the chain of transmission. So, meron tayo nito, yung ating epidemiological triad from Module 1. May agent, may reservoir, may mode of transmission, may susceptible host. So, kailangan alam nyo yan. Yeah, this is where also, because we are investigating, ito na talaga yung what is the cause part, we look into, dapat alam natin, or nagre-rely ang mga investigators on existing scientific knowledge. Kasi there could be two scenarios na mag-exist. First is, unknown yung disease. Hindi mo kilala yung disease, or known yung disease. So, pag unknown yung disease, ang tinatanong ng mga investigators dyan, what agents usually cause these symptoms? For example, merong fever, may rash. Pwede siyang measles, pwedeng dengue, pwedeng rubella. And what diseases match this clinical presentation? Kapag known naman yung disease, ito mas madali siya. Pero ang titingnan nyo, ano yung usual reservoir nitong mga known disease na to? Daddy? Mahulog na yung food. For example, dengue. Siyempre, usual reservoir natin dun. Clean water, stagnant water. How is it transmitted? Transmitted through, hindi naman aso transmit ng dengue. Mosquitoes. Okay? What are the risk factors? For example. Dito is, we review the descriptive epidemiology when we develop a hypothesis. Of course, no? Your step 6 largely help sa generation of hypothesis. From the person, the time, and the place, marami kayong hypothesis na mabibigay. Answering this question pa lang. For example, sa person, which group have the highest rates? Sa place, yung tinanong natin kanina, which place yung may highest na attack rate? Anong special about sa place na yun? Ang dami palang doon. Para pala siyang si core shelter natin sa Anafunan. Naglalagoon ang tubig kahit na small rains lang. Okay? Kailan nangyari ito? Okay. And we look for outliers. So, sa development of a hypothesis natin, we also look at outliers. Yung kaninang nakwento ko. And of course, you do KII. Ito yung sabi natin, KII, Key Informant Interviews. Anong sabi ng mga tao? Anong sabi ng mga tao doon? For example, kapag foodborne yung outbreak natin, ano yung mga kinain ng mga nagkaroon ng sakit? Ano yung sinerve doon? Yung mga food handlers, anong sinabi nila about the preparation of the food? So you can have those KII which will help you develop the hypothesis. All of those. Next is to evaluate the hypothesis epidemiologically. So pinakita na yan kanina. Paano natin gagawin yon? Yan. You do the cohort case control. Ano pa ba yung cross-sectional studies natin? Or kapag experimental, pwede naman. Okay, you do those. Okay, that's how you do it, and then you compute for the corresponding measures of association natin. We learned about that sa Module 6. Risk ratio, odds ratio, prevalence ratio. So that we can say, kapag malaki siya, more than 1, meron talaga siyang kinalaman. Pero gusto ko yung idea kanina na pinresent nila JC. Paano kung hindi nag-match? Ito tayo. Reconcile epidemiology with laboratory and environmental findings. Okay? So, kapag pinakita sa epi na results ninyo, 5 times more at risk yung kapag kumain ng potato salad, sinabi kanina. Pero sa laboratory, pinakita na malinis yung potato salad. Walang contaminant. So, anong gagawin natin doon? You do, again, another study. Kasi you should match the laboratory and the environmental evidence. So, if hindi siya mag-match, you check again. Okay? For example, sa laboratory, hindi pala, iba pala yung chinek. Okay? Hindi siya, yung part na na-check dun sa lab, siya yung siya yung malinis, wala siyang bacteria, for example, or wala siyang salmonella. You also look at environmental evidence. For example, hindi naman pala si potato salad ang may kasalanan. So, yung laboratory result na malinis yung potato salad, tama pala. Pero bakit yung epidemiology mataas? Yung pala, yung pinaglagyan ng potato salad. Yung, pwedeng pinaglagyan, or yung pinangkuha ng potato salad. The spoon na ginamit for potato salad na paglagay sa mga tao is, siya pala yung may bacteria. So, that's why you need to check. You reconcile, and then, kapag merong hindi mag-fit, you do additional studies. Ito yung number 10 natin. Yun lang ang ating part on of your analytic study. Next is the response part na. So, response natin, you implement and evaluate and control measures. This one, you don't do it at the latter part. Kung kaya na tong gawin, sa first natin na part, you do it. So, kapag alam na ng investigators, Daddy? What's that? Daddy? Sorry, mga anak. Yan. When investigators already identified the likelihood, for example, sa EPI natin, 5.6 times more likely na yung potato salad ang cause, tatanggalin na natin yon. Okay? Agad-agad. Hindi na natin aantayin pa na, antayin muna nating i-reconcile or mag-conduct ng additional study. Okay? You already stop at that part, or even dun sa descriptive part pa lang, you can already give prevention and control measures. So, ayan. So, pinakita to kanina ni JC. Maganda yung kanyang conceptual map dito, where yung control strategies natin can be either of these 3 parts: control of the reservoir, interruption of transmission, and protection of the host. Hindi ko na to isa-isahin sa inyo. Ow.
Mami, pwede ako mag-HBO? Why?
Ayan. Meron din tayong long-term response. So, meron yung short-term kapag pwede mo nang tanggalin agad. Kainis naman siya. Ang ingay niya habang nagdi-discuss ako. Sorry mga anak. Meron tayong short-term response. Pwede mo nang tanggalin agad o gawin mo na agad-agad. Or meron ding long-term response. Yung tipong hindi mo siya magagawa ngayon. In long-term pa. So, checkpoint tayo dyan. Identify if Okay, sa chat box na lang tayo. You tell me, number 1, if this is short-term or long-term control measure. Recommending improved food safety procedures in a restaurant. Ano to? Short-term or long-term? Okay, this is ilong, sabi ni Victor. But Joshua, this is long-term. Okay? You can recommend now, pero yung effect na mafe-feel natin is long-term pa. Number 2. Ayan. Aubrey, number 1 is long-term, ha? Number 2 is short-term. Sending,
Ito na lang din.
mali yung number na nilagay mo. Try ko sumakit yung chan. Short-term. Okay? So, sabi ni Aubrey, mali lang siya ng number. This is short-term. Sending ill children home from a school where there is an outbreak. Agad-agad na yun. Number 3. Lagyan nyo ng number. Number 3. Si K. Sabi niya this is short-term. Ayan. This is short-term. Containing a chemical spill and evacuating the area. You can do it now. Now na mismo. Okay? Number 4. Long. Sabi ni Rosemary. Ayan. Long-term. Matagal pa. You establish pero matagal pa natin mararamdaman ang effect. Amoy sunog. Tapos stop. Stop that. And number 5. Ay, sumagot na sila number 5. Ang tagal ni ma'am. Number 5 is long-term, sabi ni Aubrey. Of course, hindi basta-basta ang ating paggawa ng deep well. Okay, so this is a long-term measure.
Smells bad, Mami. Pumapasok yung uso.
Yes, it smells bad. After control measures are implemented, investigators must continue monitoring the outbreak. So ito yung, when you monitor, is equal to surveillance. Okay? Surveillance means continuous ang ating collection, analysis, and interpretation of health data. Para alam natin kung anong gagawin natin sa ating actions. Mag-stop na ba tayo sa pagbibigay ng mga, ang tawag doon? Health advisories? Kasi okay na? Mag-stop na ba ng mga vaccination na ginagawa? O continuous pa rin? Just like now, wala kang naririnig nagpapavaccine for COVID-19. Basis mo for that is, are there new cases pa rin na nag-a-occur? Or yung mga binigay mo ba na control measures nung last time, working na ba sila? Or is the outbreak ending or continuing? So, it is important to track yung progress of the outbreak so that alam natin kung effective yung binigay natin mga control measures, may mga new cases tayo, and para ma-prevent na rin natin ang future outbreaks. Ayan. And finally, sabi ni JC, is communicate findings. So after investigators identify the source of the outbreak and implement control procedures, the final step is to share kung ano yung nadiskubre sa mga tao who need the information. So in real life, if investigators do not communicate the findings, the outbreak response may fail and other similar outbreaks may happen again. So, itong ating step 13 is about turning investigation results into public health action and knowledge. Sino bang may kailangan makaalam? Who needs to know? Of course, yung team members. Dapat naman alam nila. Okay? The professionals working together dun sa study na yon. The public should know even before the investigation is finished. Dapat alam nila. Parang sa FDA, when they recall products from the market, food man yan or drugs, they will tell us there's an advisory that they will pull out or they pulled out this batch of milk, for example. So even before the investigation is finished, if they suspect that it is contaminated, i-pull out na agad. This will help people from becoming infected or buying pa yung mga yon while the investigation is happening. Health professionals should know. They must be informed so that they can recognize symptoms quickly. For example, bago na si COVID-19, pwede siyang asymptomatic. Dati walang panlasa, walang pang-amoy. Some pala pwede na. Okay, so they should be informed. And of course, public health officials, kasi alam nila kung saan nila ilalagay yung kanilang mga fundings. So they can make decisions for like closing mga contaminated facilities, recalling yung mga food products, issue sila ng travel advisories, and sa funding, they allocate medical resources. And at the end of the investigation, dapat meron tayo nito. Oral briefing to give a presentation to health authorities and response team and a written report. Yung kamukha ng inyong Oswego exercise, a detailed report is also prepared to document the entire investigation. Ayan. So this is the one slide showing you all the steps of outbreak investigation. May time pa ba tayo for example? Meron pa. Questions before I give a real example from DOH? Ma'am, gutom na kami. Kaya pa? Can you give a number, heart react kung kaya pa? Discard natin. Ayan. Heart react kung kaya pa or kailangan natin ng, kung kailangan mag-bladder break, magbigay ng thumbs up. O kung tama na ma'am, magbigay ng react natin dito. Magbigay ng clap hand. Clap hand. Heart kung kaya pa. Thumbs up kung bladder break. Kaya pa. Okay, we finished with just one example. Actually, I have several examples for outbreak investigation, pero we just have one. Yeah. Okay, so this is a foodborne disease outbreak in a provincial hospital. This is a real example, no? Yan. So, sabi dito, number 1, 2, 3, simultaneous yan, walang nauuna. So, this happened first. Sa March 9, sa RESU, Regional Epidemiology and Surveillance Unit, they received an ESR or Event-Based Surveillance Response Report from the PHO regarding a suspected foodborne disease outbreak. So, ang nasabi dito, merong 6 cases, may isang na-admit, wala namang namatay. Symptoms is vomiting, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. sa provincial hospital. Ang mga affected, mga health workers. Ang nangyari, they all ate lunch together. Nag-lunch lang sila together. Okay, 6 ang may vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, may isang na-admit, wala namang namatay. Is there an outbreak? Kung wala naman laging nagkakaroon ng ganong vomiting and abdominal pain and diarrhea sa hospital, yes, is an outbreak. Should we investigate? So nakita natin kanina yung dalawang factors, your disease factors and health office factors. Kaya ba na mag-investigate? Yes. Sabi dito, kaya nila mag-investigate. Meron silang FETP fellow and DCOs available. Ano to? Parang kami, epidemiology fellows. And then, disease factors natin. Hindi naman siya infectious, pero unknown yung disease. And pwede siyang ma-spread sa healthcare facility. It happens hospital. So, prioritization. So, meron tayo nung quadrants natin kanina, yung box, di ba? So, tingnan natin ang prioritization natin. Source is unknown. Mode of transmission is suspected. Causative agent is unknown. So, both unknown yon. Nandito sa fourth quadrant tayo. That is, we need to investigate. So, next is, you need to coordinate on the same day sa Provincial Health Office, DOH Office, Municipal Health Office, the hospital, DOST, FDA, RITM. Dami, no? Para sa isang nag-vomit tsaka nagtae lang yung 6. But you need to coordinate on the same day. And then, this is the outbreak investigation team. Meron ka nung leader mo, yung epidemiologist. Ito meron silang surveillance officer, 3 disease surveillance officers of the PIDOHO. Objective, kailangan malinaw ang objective natin. We need to profile the cases, identify the source, and mode of transmission. And then lastly, yung pinaka-important, recommend control and prevention measures. So next is to construct a case definition. So anong case definition nila? Yung case nila, masabi natin case if okay naman siya na tao, staff siya ng provincial hospital, nagkaroon siya ng acute diarrhea or vomiting, or ito. Okay? And it happened on March 8. So that's the exact case definition. So next is you find cases and record information. So yan ang ginawa on finding cases. Meron, gumamit sila ng questionnaire para makuha yung ating mga details, demographic profile, and kung ano yung mga kinain ng mga cases natin. Yan. Other methods na ginawa, records review, key informant interview, and other methods din, nag-trace back sila sa food history of the case patients. Each food item was traced. Nag-ocular inspection sila dun sa kung saan ginawa yung food. Kasi sa hospital, meron silang mga, kung canteen yun, kilala nila yung mga food handlers, tsaka yung owners. And then, laboratory testing, food leftovers were sent to FDA and rectal swabs were sent to RITM to determine yung ating causative agent. Yan. Next is descriptive epidemiology. So yan, meron na tayong epi-curve na sinasabi. Meron tayong kumain sila ng lunch together and then after 1 hour, no? Nagkaroon ng signs and symptoms. Ayan. So 6 cases, no deaths, 1 admitted for age with moderate dehydration. All were female. All were nursing staff in same shifts. So, yan ang mga signs and symptoms nila. Ito yung mga kinain nila. Look at the attack rate. So, attack rate. So, out of 6, makikita nyo dito, 6 of 6 ate maha blanca, salted egg, and tomatoes. Anong hypothesis ninyo? We are at step 6. Tingnan ko nga. Sinong may hypothesis sa ating chat box? Sino kaya ang salarin na pagkain? Siyempre, hindi natin investigate tong 4, no? Kasi mas mababa yung kanilang attack rate. We investigate that more kapag dumating ang ating lab results and this one is hindi naman sila or wala silang causative agent. Yan. KII, we interviewed a nursing director, sanitary inspector. So sabi ng nursing director, the staff there often buy food at the canteen. So, nung nagkaroon ng sakit yung staff, they were immediately brought sa ER. Yung sanitary inspector naman, sabi niya, there is no prior foodborne disease outbreaks sa municipalities. Lagi silang nag-i-inspect ng food establishments and there's no report of foodborne disease connected sa food establishments where the cases bought their food. Ayan. So, this descriptive study also, they interviewed staff. So, kanina meron tayong 3. Maha Blanca, salted egg, tsaka yung tomato. So, from the staff who cooked Maha Blanca, sabi niya, it was prepared a day prior. Yung uneaten portion was stored sa ref at dinala sa hospital the following day. So, hindi masakit yung food handler at wala siyang any skin lesions. For the staff who prepared salted egg and tomato salad, sabi niya, binili niya yung salted egg and tomatoes from a nearby grocery store. So, upon preparation, sabi niya, wala namang smell yung egg. And the tomato, wala naman siyang rotting parts. So, she said she prepared it on a clean plate after washing her hands. Hindi naman din siya masakit at wala din siyang skin lesions. Yan. So, pinuntahan pati yung salted egg producer. So, yan ang kanilang process of producing salted egg. Pinuntahan din ang cassava cake producer and this is the process of producing cassava cake. So, nagkaroon din ng ocular visits to check. So, ito yung kitchen ng cassava cake manufacturer. Nakakatakot pala yung kanyang no. Kung saan niya ginagawa yung cassava cake niya. Ito yung kitchen of the canteen. Grabe naman yung kitchen ng hospital. Kitchen of the canteen of the hospital. Ito yung grilling area for pork barbecue. At ito ang storage containers for salted eggs. Ayan. Now you develop a hypothesis. Sino kaya ang salarin? And evaluate yung hypothesis na yon. So, makikita nyo, very short yung incubation period. 1 to 3 hours, nagkaroon na sila ng signs and symptoms. And most likely pathogen kapag kakakain mo at agad-agad yung ganong mga signs and symptoms mo, this is according to RRL na, ang ginawa niya, is Staphylococcus aureus. And most likely vehicle natin, yung may 100% attack rates, meron tayong 3, Maha Blanca, salted egg, and tomato salad. And ang route of transmission natin is pwedeng preparation or distribution at the hospital. Yan. So now we look at or we reconcile it with lab findings and environmental findings. So yan. So all rectal swabs are negative. Yung food samples natin, makikita ninyo, Maha Blanca tested positive for Staphylococcus aureus. So, alam na natin yun. Steps 11 to 13, ito yung important part. You educate. Control is to educate hospital staff on hand hygiene and food safety practices. Hospital staff includes staff dun sa canteen. Post IEC materials around the hospital. Upon surveillance, there's no additional cases and advised to collect specimens prior to starting antibiotics in the future. Para alam nila kung anong antibiotics ang bibigay nila. And lastly, communicate findings. There's an exit conference with hospital management and PHO, and to furnish a written report sa hospital, PHO, PIDOHO at RESU. So yun lang. That's an example of your outbreak investigation. So yun talaga yung outbreak investigation natin. Meron pa akong maraming examples pero we have only 10 minutes. So that's it for your outbreak investigation. Next meeting, we'll continue with epidemiology and policy report. Plus, I won't be giving a discussion already for epidemiology and policy, but you will have 3-minute pitch. Yes. I'll be giving on that same day. Hindi ko nga alam kung, kasi the last time, face-to-face kami na nag 3-minute pitch. The first, kayo pa lang kasi yung second batch ng EPICO for undergrad. I'll give the instructions sa inyo later on. So, I want 10 groups corresponding to 10 groups sa mga nagtitesis ngayon para meron na rin kayong copy ng thesis nila, no? Gagawan nyo yun ng 3-minute policy pitch. I'll give you also paano ginagawa yung, I'll give you videos ng policy 3-minute policy pitch. You choose sa group ninyo, one lang, sa group ninyo ang pitch. Pero with that pitch, dun sa 3 minutes na yon, meron kayong 1 slide showing yung laman ng pitch ninyo. Anyway, I'll give you a copy of that. And then you will present that next meeting. Friday. So, I'll be giving it siguro this weekend para dati nyo nang mai-prepare. Presentation na lang tayo next meeting. I'll be calling public health professors to sit down to grade you sa ating policy pitch. Online tayo. Okay? 3-minute pitch online. Ginagawa yan live dapat without any script na nakaharap sa inyo. But we'll have rubrics na ifa-follow ng ating mga panel for grading you sa 3-minute pitch ninyo. Okay, any questions po? Yes, next meeting you'll have a quiz on bias and confounding and outbreak investigation. After that, you'll have your, yes, online. You'll have your epidemiology and policy report. And then last part of that last meeting natin is your 3-minute pitch. It's the last meeting, no? Yes. Last part of our last meeting next week is 3-minute pitch. Any questions po? Again, 3 yun na gagawin natin next meeting. 2 quiz, report on the last module, and then the 3-minute pitch. Yun lang. Okay, kung wala ng questions, dahil may klase pa ako afterwards at wala pa tayong lunch. Yes, Gian?
Ma'am, we have concern lang po sa Block A. Yung sa app po ma'am na Solve That Outbreak is hindi po ma'am nagda-download ng medyo marami din po sa amin.
Sino naka-download? Sino naka-download? Jay, na-download mo? Yeah, may mga naka-download. You try, I think you can install it also sa computer. You can try that. Or you can borrow yung, for example, si Jay, na-install niya, you can borrow from him. And then you try you do the exercise, the games there also. Pero i-screenshot mo ng sayo.
So, noted po. Thank you po.
Again, you can borrow yung cellphone ng other classmates nyo na naka-download. Pero I suggest as public health students, no, maganda na meron kayo nito. Oh, yan ang mga game na nakikita ninyo. Very educational, very public health sa loob ng phone ninyo. So kung kaya, you do that. Yes, Rosemary?
Ma'am, tanong ko lang po for next week is online po yung ano natin, quiz po natin. Sinasabi niyo po.
Yes, ayaw nyo ba? Kung ayaw nyo, if you are free ng 2 to 5 ng Wednesday, you can join the other section.
May defense po kami kasi ma'am.
May defense kayo?
Research proposal defense po. Sa Wednesday po.
Yung mag-visa sa dito.
Wednesday? Parang wala naman akong ano. Hindi ba minove yun ni ma'am ano?
Po? Parang yun po. Dito?
Hindi ba yun na-move? Rosemary?
Opo ma'am, supposedly dapat po ma'am sa Sabado. Kaso
11. 11
kaso-
and 23 sabi nila.
minove ko nung 15.
p.m.
Last na yon, parang wala pang sinabi si Ma'am Visa. Anyway, yes, ano tayo doon? Online ang quiz. Ayaw nyo, hirap ng online, no? Mas gusto ko rin naman ng face-to-face. If you have, siguro, common time, we can have it face-to-face. Let me know. Between Monday to Thursdays. Meron ba? Monday to Thursday? Meron ba kayong free time?
Pag-usapan na lang din po ma'am kasi may
Yeah.
quiz din po kami.
Yeah, pag-usapan nyo kasi mahirap mag-quiz ng online. I know. So, pag-usapan ninyo ang inyong or pwede naman yung inyong defense naman, hindi kayo sabay-sabay niyan sa defense. So, kung yung mga hindi pa sila yung magde-defend, they can take the quiz. Anyway, the quiz will just be 40 minutes lang siya. Pag-usapan nyo, let me know at the end of the day. Today. Any other questions? Wala na? Kung wala na, kindly open your cameras for our final documentation today.
Yung hindi ito sa... Hindi yan sila sa mga sulat-sulat.
Kenneth, 3 kayo dyan. Yung 2 sa inyo, walang attendance today, ha? Kasi si Zoom ang nag-check ng attendance ninyo. Nung una pa lang, sinabi ko na yan sa inyo. Itong sina Villanueva, I think sila yung nagsabi sa chat box. And I instructed them. O, yung 2 walang pangalan dyan, ha? Diyos ko. Sige. Rosemary, kindly.
Okay guys, ready? 1, 2, 3. Isa pa po. One. Okay. Wait lang po. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay na po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much everyone and I'll see you next meeting or kapag meron kayong spare time for your quiz face-to-face. Bye everyone!
Thank you po,
Bye,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Happy
Thank you
lunch
po.
kung may lunch.
Kung may lunch.